So what happens is, we're doing the series, and we get the phone call. Now we get the next phone call from editorial. God, I hate those editors, you know what I mean? So we get the phone call from editorial. They go, listen, you know, Impulse is in trouble. The series Impulse is in trouble. We want to do a crossover between Robin, Impulse, and Superboy, and Young Justice, because it's going to help boost the sales. And I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm like, all these books, nobody's going to help each other. They're all the same number. You're not going to get any juice from it. Right. So they said, listen, but it's going to be an alternate reality crossover. And we say, well, it's right before our last issue. You know, we have this thing, we're building to 100, you're asking us to put that in 99.
Yeah.
And a script that's already written.
It was hell.
So they go, yeah, but it's really a whole length, and they send us a breakdown of what it's all inside that issue, and we're reading it, and we're like, we got a problem. Superboy's not in the book. No way. The breakdown didn't have Superboy appearing in the story. So I'm reading and go, Jimmy, what are we going to do? And he goes, so we call up, and I said, listen, could you at least give us 4 pages? 4 pages to at least reintroduce Superboy in his regular environment, because it's got to feed into 100. So we take the issue 99 script that we wrote,
right.
We move half of it into 98, and the other half into 100, with these 4 bridge pages in an alternate reality story in 99. So then, we do it, they thank us, and everything comes over. The first part of the pain of this is that, I'm laughing now. First part of the pain is that I read the Young Justice crossover. Had nothing to do with the outline. They call, and I go, hey, what's the change? And he goes, well, they really couldn't find a way to work it in. And I said, what? So then the next part comes in, Robin. It's 17 pages of Robin and only 4 pages of the crossover. And I go to him, hey, why do they only have to do 4 pages of crossover? We had to do 17. He goes, they come back and goes, well, it was too important to their story. They didn't want to break free from it.
And so it went.
And so it went.
The only place it was almost the whole story
was us.
And
the funny part is, and by the way, we love what you did, but yeah, Impulse is already canceled. So they canceled Impulse before they even did the crossover to help Impulse. Now, I'm interviewing for my job at that time.
Yes. And I don't think they know it's the same.
They don't know he's putting it together. And
I'm working.
He's getting all excited. And I'm like, you can't talk to anybody. Just trust me. You can't say a word. You can't say a word. And lo and behold, I got into my job, and the first thing I did was
cancel Superboy.
Cancel Superboy.
and I'll tell you, the ultimate screw was issue 100. So we finally write the story where everything comes together, and that's the big payoff, right? And the editor at the time decides, well, it's issue 100 of Superboy. We'll put a short story before your story. That has nothing to do with anything.
Well, actually, in a sense, the reason why they did it, in fairness to the editor on that, what he did is he had the original creative team. They were the ones who did it. He was just bringing them back, but it was just at the end of it. It was just so confusing. And the numbers for Superboy were equal to the numbers of the numbers of Impulse at the time.
Yeah.
And so what happened is that we wound up pulling the trigger on Superboy, and then relaunching, bringing him into the Teen Titans at that time. Once we made all the changes to Young Justice, but it's just one of the funnier stories.
And him canceling Superboy also was a good move. This just showed the new people that nobody's safe.
What you got?
Wasn't there an alternate reality Teen Titans story with all those characters anyway?
Yeah, it was a Young Justice story.
No, wasn't it in Teen Titans later on, like 20 issues down the road?
No, I don't think so, because that one was the one we did Doomsday Boy, or Doomsboy. We did Doomsboy at the time, which is supposed to be him. But anyway, this is how DC Nation runs.
Yeah,
in case you're wondering.
And it shows you the chaos of, you can't, if any of you guys, anybody wants to be writers, are they going to try, or thinking, no hands, show hands, nobody, a couple people?
Yeah.
You can't really, comics, you have to be able to bend like that.
Yeah, you got to be able to work with it. I was coming from animation at the time, so I was doing most of my writing in animation, where you're used to just getting direction constantly and input from so many different sides. You're always trying to make it work. And I thought we did a good job making it work. It's just that all the reasons we did it were all gone by the time it actually got there. That was the shame of it all. So, believe it or not, and everybody says, well, crossover mania. That crossover and Last Laugh before that were the last 2 crossovers before Infinite Crisis, before we started Countdown to Infinite Crisis. So we actually had a period of time where there weren't any crossovers as we spent just figuring out what each of the books were. And
was that the blame for it?
It stuck in my, believe it or not, it did stick in my head. Right. It really did. I'm kidding aside, it did.
It didn't work out.
My goal, at that point, if you're using other books to prop up other characters, usually that doesn't work really well. The better the line is when each book can stand on its own, therefore when you cross them over, they all add to each other and add the value onto each other. Not You know, it's one thing to say you're going to get a spike from an event, but I think a lot of guys were reading in the 90s, you know that you spike up for an event and the people would be gone the next day or the next issue. So you don't get any sort of long-lasting value in that. And even when we do that now, when we have an event story, what I'm hoping is that that's why everybody says, oh, how come the story seems to be continuing, it seems to be running on? Well, one of the reasons why that is that you want to take the value that you create, the excitement from an event, and hopefully have something that transfers outward so that people want to read it, that they don't have a reason to drop it. Because guess what, guys? Our job is to sell you all our books. It's a secret, it's there.
Does that come a little bit from your soap opera background or your ABC background?
Yeah.
Because it's a soap opera, isn't it?
It is a soap opera. I used to sit in the writers' meetings at the soaps, and we used to have charts that are 8 months long of all the character arcs. And one of the things you have to do, and one of the things we try to do now, is to be flexible if you see a character breaking out. And rather than just stay on the charted course for 2 years out, if you see something changing, you want to be able to pump it up. Like, one of the things that I was really surprised and excited about was Ravager. Ravager caught on, and people seemed to get excited, and we actually got bumps when Ravager was on the cover, and it seemed like a character that had some juice. And so we decided to, that's one of the reasons why we did Terra Titans. We had an idea to move her out of Teen Titans because she didn't really fit as a team member, but we wanted to give her a showcase, and that's how Terra Titans was formed, along those lines.
That's a great title.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, Anyway, one of the things about DC Nation, which is completely shot because we were shooting it, is that we always say whatever is said in DC Nation stays in DC Nation, right? Isn't that the rules? According to the guy. Did you get that typing-wise fast enough? Okay, good. But again, what I want to do really is open this up to you guys, to questions from you, about what you like and what you're reading right now, and what's your opinions and what's going on. This is our opportunity to really sit and meet you guys face to face and hear what's going on. Any questions? Questions in the room? Question?
The big thing right now that I've noticed on the web and on the internet and a lot of fans.
Watch your brain. Come on, you know that.
Well, is this thing with Grant Morrison. Apparently, people were disgruntled about the way Final Crisis was laid out and stuff. But I see a comparison with how he laid that out and how Jeff Johns has laid out the Legion of Three Worlds, how he's connected that to all this previous work that Jeff Johns done, and the same thing with Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
But the way Jeff Johns has done it is different than the way Grant Morrison. But people are more positive towards that and not towards his.
3 different styles.
Completely two different styles of writing. I mean, Grant's real thing is to read everything as a whole. I mean, one of the things you see, a lot of Final Crisis was laid out, actually was started with 7 Soldiers of Victory.
Right.
So much of what was going on there was played out into what was happening in Final Crisis. And that was one of the things that Grant always had in his mind. When he did 7 Soldiers, he had Final Crisis in his mind. He knew exactly what he was going to do. The thing with Grant is that, and this is what one of his greatest strengths is, he has so many ideas. He has so many ideas that they all wind up in the book. And literally, no, and I'm serious by that. What I mean is that every page is so dense with information that feeds into other things going on. Do we want to say what we're going to say about the selection? Am I going to get in trouble with that? I get in trouble with every time I talk of these things.
Hey, where's Bob Boyd?
What? Bob Boyd's in WonderCon because he wanted to see Watchmen. Big deal. Like he doesn't know how it's going to end,
What, is there a preview just for the pros, or can I, is it?
I think it's a special giveaway raffle that they're doing at the DC booth in the WonderCon.
So all the pros get to go?
But it comes out next week, right?
Yes, next week. I haven't seen anything on Watchmen yet, so I'm
Yeah.
going to see when everybody else
I'm
does.
going to
I'll tell you who the killer is.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Okay, well, what I was about to say is that one of the things that we realized, and this was Grant's idea and the correct idea, is when we collect Final Crisis in the hardcover that's about to come out, we're doing all 7 issues of Final Crisis, the 2 issues of Superman Beyond, and the 1 issue of Submit. All this is in the same book. So it's the material that Grant all built together, and when you read it as a whole, it's amazing. Simple, not good. You know what I mean? And originally, I wasn't fully supportive because I also like the cleanliness of collecting things in a certain way. But for the full and better reading experience, it's a home run. It's a home run.
Well, when you do collect the other ones, you're not going to put the Final Crisis banner on them, are you? Like the ones that don't fit in.
I think we're
The
gonna.
Road Revenge and something like that, that's also loosely tied.
It's loosely tied, but it's still, because they were sold as Final Crisis, I feel it'd be erroneous to take the name off of it, so that it would still be on it, to say the least. Yes, sir. What do you?